In this next module, we'll talk about emotional awareness once again, this time working with fear. When we think of all of our emotions can have a feeling that is not pleasant or bad. We can associate this with a negative emotion and think of when we feel good, happy, joyful as good or positive emotions. However, every emotion can be destructive or constructive. We could feel good and happy about someone we know not succeeding. We have competition or jealousy with them, and so we respond in a way that is destructive because we are joining in with a feeling of they have failed and that's good for me. We can also have a constructive response to anger. We can feel very frustrated by some political issue, which motivates us to then either write a letter or take action by protesting or find some way to work towards equality and justice. In this way, it's important to think of our emotions as not good or bad, positive or negative, but an opportunity to respond constructively in a way that's helpful and supportive, or destructively in a way that harms others. When we think of fear, fear is an emotion that can often be responded to in a harmful way. For example, many people are fearful of public speaking. Maybe they find out they have a presentation for their colleagues, and in the week ahead of that, they feel so anxious that they can barely even look at their materials. They spend no time preparing, and in fact, they are losing sleep at night. This would be a very destructive response to this feeling of fear. But that same experience, having anxiety around the presentation and having to give it a week later, could motivate you to practice, to learn, to ask for help. This would be a very constructive response to fear of public speaking. When we think of destructive emotional behavior, we think often of the ways we respond too strongly. So with fear, we just overblow it in our heads. Or with fear, we don't respond at all. We don't say what we need. Maybe we don't notice how our experience is affecting others. Or we maybe are totally unclear on what's actually happening. We get totally anxious about a way that our colleague or manager asked us about our work. We thought that they were critiquing us, but in fact, they were just curious. So all these ways can have a regrettable episode. We think of common fear triggers that can relate to maybe global worries, physical health concerns, financial and job insecurity, climate-based anxiety, or concern about the well-being of family and friends. We can also have the kind of fear that happens when we feel underappreciated. We have shaky relationship status, or we feel disincluded. This has to do with the underlying feeling of not having interpersonal safety. At work, we can also have a sense of imposter syndrome, or not feeling as though we're getting what's needed done. We can have an insecurity about the future, and this overall can make us feel a lack of self-worth. That ongoing sense of insecurity and anxiety is something that is a large struggle across many different professions in healthcare. When we think of fear, it's not just the panic, it's a whole family of fear. It's anxiety, rumination, feeling of nerves, as well as stress. When we have too much anxiety, that's often what underlies our deepest feelings of stress. We can respond in a whole variety of different ways to our fear. We can try to avoid, we can become worried, we can try to distract ourselves, and needless to say, some of our responses are more helpful than others. What's important about working with fear is building an awareness, having a friendly and accepting awareness of whatever is in our mind, including the difficult thoughts. So if we're having a rumination and fear about what's going on at work, recognize instead of trying to push it away or continue thinking in a way that's harmful. We also have to start to be aware of fear and other emotions as they arise, noticing maybe what it feels like in our body with interoception. Maybe we have a tightness in the chest or clenching in the belly. We can also really consider how we're responding. Are we suppressing our fear? Are we trying to reappraise? Are we able to accept our emotions as they are? Reappraisal and acceptance, these are really useful strategies. A reappraisal of fear could be, Yeah, this is something I'm worried. Accepting could be on me right now. No wonder I feel fear. Another option is compassion, just feeling that we are challenged and it is difficult to be with fear. And also having some compassion for when our fear makes us do things that are not quite constructive and in fact might be destructive, like staying up too late, trying to distract ourselves, or avoiding situations altogether because we're so anxious.